Members, it's time and we have a quorum. First, confirmation of the minutes of the 21st meeting held on the 11th of April 2014. The minutes have been forwarded to members. Members, can we confirm the minutes, please? Thank you. Matters arising on Mr. Leung Kwok Hong's action to hurl objects at the Financial Secretary at the Council meeting on the 16th of April. The Chief Secretary of Administration called for an urgent meeting with me on the 17th of April. She expressed grave concerns on the matter from the administration and strongly asked that the Legislative Council take appropriate action to follow up on the matter to prevent similar recurrence of similar incidents in future. The Chief Secretary has already written to the President of the Legislative Council. As the President mentioned in his reply to the Chief Secretary, the Committee on Rules of Procedure has been studying the issue of disorderly conduct at Council meetings. There will be another discussion at this meeting on the 13th of May. As for the security arrangement, this will be followed up by the Electoral Commission. The two letters have been forwarded to members on the 28th of April for your reference. Questions, please? Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Let me first of all clarify this. Whether it's the Chief Secretary, Carrie Lam, or Financial Secretary John Tsang, there's no threat to their personal safety. If I want to hit him that day, I wanted to hit him that day. I could have. Of course, he's good at martial arts. Was that a threat? What you just said? No. What I said was I could have hit him if I had wanted to, but I didn't do it. Mr. Wong Ting Hwa, please let Mr. Leung Kwok Hong finish. So if they cite the reason of security and say that personal safety was under threat, it's not true. Maybe the dignity has been denigrated, but it's like if I swore at him to say that he acted like a dog or whatever, that would still just hurt his dignity. So that's why, as Mrs. Chan said, it's totally unreasonable. I could have attacked him if I wanted to because I walked past him so many times. But if he felt that his dignity was hurt, yes, exactly, that's the intention of what I did. But I can tell you, as far as his personal safety is concerned, I could give 400% guarantee I wouldn't do it. I don't even want to wash my hands. I would not touch him, definitely. Okay, there are two committees to follow up on the matter. Next, matters arising or business arising from previous council meetings. Legal Service Division reports and bills referred to the House Committee in accordance with Rule 854.4. Legal advisor, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 5 reports today on 5 bills. And because of the content or issues covered by the bills, we propose that members set up bills committees on these 5 bills. First one, Electoral Legislation Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2014. This is about making amendments to improve the elector and voter registration arrangements and the electoral procedures for the elections of the Chief Executive, Legislative Council, District Councils, and the Rural Representative, and special arrangement in the case of inclement weather. I believe members would like to set up as a committee on this bill. Okay, who would like to propose a bills committee, please? Ms. Sit Ho. Who would like to join? Okay, the Secretariat will circulate papers. Next, Legal Advisor. Thank you. Next one, Statute Law Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2014, paper number LS44. As its name implies, the bill seeks to provide for miscellaneous amendments to various policy issues, mainly repeal or amendments to certain provisions of the Crimes Ordinance which were ruled to be discriminatory on the basis of sexual orientation and therefore unconstitutional, and the powers of members and temporary members of the Lands Tribunal under the Lands Tribunal Ordinance, and also amendments to the Building Management Ordinance to replace the existing requirement of a statutory declaration by a member of the Management Committee with the requirement of a statement. Now, this bill covers an extensive scope. I believe members would wish to set up a bills committee. Who would like to propose a Bills Committee? Yes? Ms. Emily Lau proposes a Bills Committee. You proposing a Bills Committee and Ms. Emily Lau would join, okay? Now, does any other member wish to join? The Secretary will circulate papers again. Legal Advisor? Yes, Mr. Chairman, the one following is the Insurance Companies Amendment Bill 2014, paper number LS50. Well, this may be named an amendment bill, but actually is about the establishment of new insurance authority, which will replace the existing regulatory regime under the legislation by the Commissioner for Insurance within the government. And of course, there are far-reaching implications. I'm sure members would wish to set up a Bills Committee. Who would like to propose a Bills Committee? Mr. Chen Kim-po has proposed a Bills Committee. Mr. Chin Tung-kai, you'd like to join? Those who would like to join, hands up, please. Okay, the Secretariat will circulate papers. Next one. Legal Advisor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next one is the Electronic Health Record Sharing System Bill. Paper number LS47. The bill seeks to establish the electronic health record sharing system to provide for the sharing and use of personal health data by the hospital authority and relevant bodies. Again, the legal framework itself is complex, and then the issues under consideration are sensitive, so I'm sure members would want to set up a Bills Committee. Who'd like to set up a Bills Committee? Well, Mr. Sin Chung Kai has proposed a Bills Committee, and Dr. Helena Wong would join. Okay, the Secretary will continue to circulate papers. The last bill, Construction Workers Registration Amendment Bill 2014. Mr. Chairman, this bill seeks to amend the Construction Workers Registration Ordinance to modify the Construction Workers Registration Scheme by changing the basis of registration from trade to trade division and providing arrangements for senior construction workers. The bill also seeks to provide for the phased implementation of the improvement measures to the registration system. The panel on development was consulted last year. Various suggestions and concerns were raised by members, so we propose a Bills Committee. Okay, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok proposes a Bills Committee. Who would like to join, please? Thank you. The Secretary will circulate papers. Next, Legal Service Division report on subsidiary legislation gazetted on the 11th of April. Legal Advisor, please. Yes, Mr. Chairman, because of the intervening holidays, there will be two LSD reports. First one is legislation gazetted on the 11th of April, paper number LS45. There are 3 items of subsidiary legislation under the Road Traffic Ordinance relating to fees and charges. It's mostly to adjust upwards some fees. The average increases from 7.5% to 15%. Now we are studying whether the empowering provision could cover the issues under consideration. We received a written reply from the administration. We're still considering the reply. If members wish, you could set up a subcommittee to look into that. So these are the 3 items. There are another 3 items, LN 51 to 53. They are all the United Nations sanctions regulations against Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Somalia. Now, there's no need to for LESHCO to pass the resolutions, but this falls within the terms of reference of the relevant subcommittee to examine the implementation in Hong Kong resolutions of the UN Security Council. So we could refer. Okay, I propose that we refer the last 3 items to the subcommittee chaired by Ms. Sit Ho. On the 3 items under the Road Traffic Ordinance, would you like to set up a subcommittee? No? Mr. Chairman, on the legal issue, if necessary, we would submit a further report. Okay. There's no need for moving any motion. Next, Legal Service Division report on subsidiary legislation gazetted on the 25th of April 2014 and tabled in Council on the 30th of April 2014. Legal advisor, please. Yes, Mr. Chairman, this paper number LS45, there are two batches. The first batch involves just one item, Inland Revenue Exchange of Information Relating to Taxes, United States of America Order. This legal notice is made by the Chief Executive and Council under the Inland Revenue Ordinance to specify certain arrangements made pursuant to a tax information exchange agreement which is made between Hong Kong and the U.S. and certain provisions of a relevant protocol. That is, under specified conditions, the Hong Kong Inland Revenue Department and the U.S. Internal Revenue Service could exchange information. The arrangement will come to place on the 20th of June. The panel on financial affairs was not consulted on the legal notice. So the exchange of information relating to taxes. Do you wish to set up subcommittee? Okay, Mr. Kenneth Leung has proposed a subcommittee who would like to join. The Secretary will circulate. Two other items in this report. News Agencies Registration Amendment Regulation 2014 and Newspapers Registration and Distribution Amendment Regulation 2014. These are to increase the fees in relation to the registration of news agencies and so on. This is in line with the user pays principle. The two LM will come into operation on the 1st of November this year. Do you wish to set up a subcommittee? No. And the last item in the report, Overseas Lawyers Qualification for Admission Amendment Rules 2014. This is made by the Council of the Law Society of Hong Kong with the prior approval of the Chief Justice. This is to amend the eligibility criteria and so on. Now, the LM will come into operation on the date to be appointed by the President of the Law Society of Hong Kong. We've asked some questions, we've received reply, and having studied the reply, we do not see any need for follow-up on the legal issues. Members, do you wish to set up a subcommittee? No. Okay, then. If I may remind members, for these items of subsidiary legislation, the deadline for giving notice for amendment is the 28th of May. If extended, it will be the 18th of June. Business for the Council meeting of the 7th of May 2014, tabling of papers, report number 17/13/14 of the House Committee on Consideration of Subsidiary Legislation and Other Instruments. By the deadline, no members are asked to speak on these items. Questions, 16 written questions have been scheduled. Bills first reading and moving to second reading. Administration of Justice Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2014, Property Management Services Bill, and Inland Revenue Amendment Bill 2014. Government motion, no notice has been received. Members' motions, proposed resolution under Section 34(4) of the Interpretation and General Clauses Ordinance Cap 1 in relation to the Pesticides Ordinance Amendment of Schedule 1 Notice 2014 to be moved by Ms. Sit Ho. Motion on report of the delegation of the Subcommittee on Poverty to study the experience of poverty alleviation in Taiwan and Japan to be moved by Mr. Frederick Fung, and motion on ensuring the completion of public housing and infrastructure projects on schedule to be moved by Mr. James Tan. Business for the Council meeting of the 14th of May 2014. Questions, 22 questions have been scheduled. Bills, first reading and moving of second reading, no notice has been received. Government motion, also no notice has been received. Members' motions, motion under the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance to be moved by Mr. Gary Feng. Motion on the 4th of June incident to be moved by Mr. Lee Cheuk Yan, and motion on setting up a future fund for establishing an integrated retirement protection system to be moved by Mr. Wong Kwok Kin. If members wish to propose amendments, the deadline is the 7th of May. On the items of legislation that will expire. The relevant report has been tabled, and if you wish to speak on those items, the deadline for making indication is the 5th of May by 5 p.m. Subcommittee report on the Pesticides Ordinance Amendment of Schedule 1 Notice 2014, Ms. Ho. Yes, this notice is for us to comply with the Stockholm Convention to include 6 pesticides into the subsidy legislation. The reason why it is included so late is because China, as the signatory party, has not acceded to the inclusion of 6 pesticides when the convention came into force. They only acceded to that in early 2014. That's why we could only include the pesticides now. But members believe there's no need for us. We shouldn't wait for such ratification. If there are any substances that may affect public health and safety, we should amend the relevant legislation as soon as possible. The administration told us that for pesticides that could be sold in Hong Kong, there is a schedule. In that schedule, the pesticides are not included there. So, in other words, they could not be sold. So there's some indirect way of regulation of these 6 pesticides. And some members expressed concern that where such pesticides are used in schools and residential homes for the elderly, that could be a health risk. So the Education Bureau and the Food and Health Bureau should formulate operations code. And we will refer the matters to the panel on food safety and environmental hygiene. Originally, we wanted to extend the deadline for the scrutiny of this item because we've asked the administration for a document. Now, the document has been submitted to members, and members don't see a need for another meeting. So I will talk to the secretary to see what we can do with the notice we are already given for extending the scrutiny period for this item. Thank you.
A reminder for members, if there's any application to extend the scrutiny period to any notice, the deadline is the 28th of May. If you want to move amendments, the deadline is the 21st of May. At the meeting on the 7th of May, the scrutiny period would expire. Position on Bills Committee and subcommittees. The speaker is not coming through. Mr. Albert Chan, your mic is not on. I didn't catch what you say. I'm a member of the subcommittee on the question of extension of the scrutiny period. It was I who proposed that because some members of the public are very concerned about the matter, and it's been pointed out by some of these people that they need more time to look into the content, and they would like to attend any meeting. We have been talking about just government administrative measures and how to deal with pesticide administratively. If the period is extended, I think that's not a problem. I believe it would be good because the public would be able to offer further views during the extended period up to the 20-something of May. The notice will come into effect. So I believe we should maintain the validity of the extension. If there's no extension, or if there's an extended period, we would be able to get it passed in good time. Well, I don't think we can get it approved on the 7th of May or extended on the 7th of May because you are filibustering. Well, that's what you say. We never use this word filibustering. All right. Positions on bills committees and subcommittees. We have 8 bills committee, 4 subcommittee under the House committee, and 4 subcommittees on policy matters under panels. Next, proposal to seek the Council's authorization for the appointment of a select committee to inquire into the delay in the construction works of the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Hong Kong Express Rail link and related matters, and that in the performance of its duties, the select committee be authorized to exercise the powers under Section 9(1) of the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Mr. Gary Fang has written in to the House Committee. So has Mr. Wong Yok Man. The letters have been distributed to members. Mr. Garen Fan and Mr. Wong have previously written in to ask for this to be discussed today. And then on the 30th of April, Mr. Fan wrote again to ask for the deferment of this item to the next meeting, so that members could, first of all, listen to the explanations offered by the administration and the MTRCL on the 5th of May before they decide whether to support this proposal. Mr. Wong Yok Man has not made the same proposal. So, Mr. Wong, would you like to defer this to the next week, or should we do it today? Well, I don't understand why Mr. Fang has tried to defer this. Are you trying to convince the pro-establishment members to support you? Well, you are dreaming. If they are going to support you, they will support you out of conscience. I have written an article saying that anyone who opposed to the invocation of the powers and privileges are all traitors of Hong Kong, because they gave support to the funding of the express rail link. They should know that they did wrong, and they should make amends. That's what Mr. Tao Yanming wrote. Why do we have to defer this to the following week? Let's do it while it's still a hot topic. Why should we defer this? You have already made the proposal. If you don't want to be a traitor, you should support this now. All right, I think that's pretty clear as regards your position, Mr. Wong. Mr. Chan. Well, I was asking whether the matter should be deferred for a week. Well, I'm in favor of dealing with it immediately, but of course, those proposals were made by these two members. I think it's the sooner the better. Well, actually, I move a motion, and according to the records, I don't think you need to go into that. I just want to give you some background information. Many members were not there. Some have forgotten. Some have chosen to forget. I'm in favor of a discussion now, because there are many absurd matters. I don't want them to be covered up to the detriment of public interest. Mr. Fan. The delay of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Hong Kong Express Rail link may be subject to delays or budget exceedance. This is a serious matter, and some media have exposed certain documents saying that the administration of the MTRCL were guilty of a cover-up. So this council must play a monitoring role and set up a select committee to look into the matter. Of course, at the same time, I've heard from other members saying that they would very much like to listen to the explanations of the administration and the MTRCL first. Well, I'm not optimistic. I have to say this to Mr. Wong Yok Man. On the 5th of May, we are going to have a meeting of the subcommittee on railways. So far, we haven't received any document. Maybe they will just do it on that day. So MTRCL is trying everything to avoid this council invoking the powers and privileges. They have set up their own investigation panel, and they will be investigating themselves in essence. On the 16th of April, I wrote this letter to you. It was the time when we did not had not made the arrangement to have 3 consecutive days on the budget. So on the 2nd of May, today, some members have come to the position that they might consider the invoking of powers and privileges if the explanation from the administration and the MTRCL are not satisfactory. But it seems because the deferment of the subcommittee meeting from the 2nd of May to the 5th of May, that's why I wrote to you on the 30th of April saying that I would rather defer this to the next week on my proposal to invoke our powers and privileges in setting up select committee. But at the same time, I will support Mr. Wong Yok Man's proposal for discussion today. And if it's passed, of course, there's no need for my proposal to be discussed next week. But if this one is not agreed to, then I would like you to agree to a discussion on my proposal next week. Of course, if this proposal is passed, is approved this week, then of course it's passed. Otherwise, I will not be dealing with your proposal next week unless there's something very special has happened. That's why I have written to you and setting out in detail my reasons. Because next week, on the 5th of May, we will be focusing on the full disclosure of the reasons for the delay and for the budget exceedance. And that would have a bearing on whether members will support my proposal to set up a select committee. Mr. Wong Yok Man. Well, if this is not approved, then of course that the proposal will be raised again at a council meeting. So the best way forward is to deal with it today. Because we are in the process of filibuster. We will not be able to have this schedule for discussion even up to the 17th of May. So let's allow everyone to state their position, state their attitude today. In my view, this must be dealt with today. It's not meaningful to defer it. We have already scheduled a debate at a council meeting. Why do we insist that this be discussed again on the 9th of May? If this is approved, this is endorsed, there's no need to discuss it next week. But if it's not approved, then there's the need to discuss it on the 9th of May because a proposal has been scheduled for discussion at a future council meeting. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. I agree with Mr. Wong Yok Man. Since this is on the agenda, let's deal with it today. When this incident is exposed, many members have said that the delay and the budget may be exceeded. There should be something done to look into the matter. And it would be very good to facilitate a better understanding if we invoke our powers and privileges. As the other member said, so far we haven't received any paper for the subcommittee on railways. Well, maybe they can give you a very detailed paper next Monday. But if it's just a summary report or a report summarizing what happened in the past, it may not help members a lot. Some pro-establishment members have said that they will not rule out supporting this proposal to set up select committee. I hope they would give their support now to look into the Express Rail Link incident in order that we can look into the mistakes and cover up or the misinformation in a transparent manner. So I would support that we embark on a comprehensive investigation by invoking our powers and privileges. Let me declare my interest. I'm a minority shareholder of the MTRCL. As I've said in the other meeting, we would like to get more information through the subcommittee on railways, but there is a growing body of evidence about malpractice or dereliction of duties, and more of their senior people are jumping ship. But the meeting on the 5th of May is essential. We have to respect the due process, because in past cases, we would look into the matter first in the panel meeting. If there are still lingering doubts, perhaps we should then try to deal with the problems later. And although we are still under a process of filibustering, although some members do not admit, we wait until the meeting is convened on the 5th of May. Well, we should look at the source of information. Some media got hold of some internal papers of MTRCL. Of course, they won't let us have those papers. And we relied on the media to expose the information. So the paper gives a very detailed account that it cannot be done. It cannot be done in another year. And the media just tried to seek confirmation from electrical members, and then it was revealed to the public. The budget will be exceeded by $20 billion. How many cans of fish with soy and luncheon meat can you buy? You can buy a lot of dog biscuits with $2 billion. I'll see how you vote on this.
That's insulting others. What do you mean giving people dog biscuits? I asked him to retract what he said. Why can't people eat dog biscuits? Dog biscuits are fit for human consumption. No debate. DAB colleagues, if you buy me dog biscuits, definitely I'll have them. I've eaten dog biscuits before. So give me some dog biscuits. I don't mind. I welcome them. Mr. Leung, are you going to retract your remarks? No, I'm not going to, because dog biscuits are fit for human consumption. I've actually eaten dog biscuits. Quite nice, actually. Now, so this case, definitely we need to look into it. We have to start from the point of the case being exposed. So don't find excuse. Michael Tan, is he here? No. The golf course. There's no investigation, and they wanted to build the main facilities there. That's what they actually did. And so we shouldn't say we should wait before we decide whether there will be an inquiry. That's a waste of time. Ms. Sit Ho, definitely I think inquiry is called for, because there was such a controversial project. Government steamrolled it through, costing some $6.7 billion, but actually they haven't finished the ground investigation. And after the case was disposed, two senior management members jumped ship. Definitely there's a serious problem. So we have to see whether it's the works personnel who were hiding something from the upper management, or actually was the government in the know. So this is a major lie, but how far does it spread, I think, is an important issue of public interest. So I think we could vote on whether to do an inquiry. But then I'm worried about the procedure. Let's say if it cannot be passed today, then we can't be raised again tomorrow, then that's serious, because the subcommittee on railways will be having a meeting next Monday. Hopefully there will be new developments, because government would submit papers. If it's the same issue, after we voted on it once, that best if we could pass the motion today. Let's say it's not, and then there's new development reviewed from the document submitted to the subcommittee on railways. Mr. Chairman, I think you should allow Mr. Gary Feng to raise the item again at the next House committee. Now, on the House Rules 24, and unless there's approval from members, otherwise for matters already decided upon by members must not be discussed again. Now, if there's new development, then the House committee would have to agree to deal with it again before I could deal with it. Okay, so let's decide on principle now. If there's new development, there's new information reviewed, then we could look at it again. We'll go by the House rules. Ms. Claudia Mo. I think Mr. Gary Frank has raised his hand. Shouldn't he go first? You press the button. So you press the button, so I'll let you speak. But if you don't want to speak, then it will be Dr. Kwokaki. No, I want to speak. Now, please don't go overboard. I thought I let you speak. I thought you didn't see Mr. Gary Frank, so I just tried to remind you. Sorry. No, the House Committee is about pressing the button. Can I speak now? Yes, it's your turn. Now, there are very senior engineers working on the Express Rail Link project said that after the ERL is built and in the next 30 years, Hong Kong will be proud about this mega project. Now, we've seen such scandals, and we have to invoke the Powers and Privileges Ordinance to investigate them. And my goodness, don't they feel shame? This ERL project that could be cost overrun of more than $100 billion, taxpayers have to foot the bill. Unfortunately, this whole project is such a scandal. Now, at first, we were worried that the geological condition along the route would be such that there could be problems like buildings collapsing in Tai Kok Tsui. But now it's actually at the terminus that the ground is too hard, and that causes problems. I have confidence in the engineering expertise of the MTRCL, but in terms of the management, definitely there's a cover-up. Now, you say there will be a meeting of the subcommittee on railways on Monday. Probably more would be exposed. If, say, next Friday when we have another House Committee meeting, if the subcommittee on railways has something new, I think you should exercise your discretion to allow the House Committee to discuss the item again. So that's what I would like to put down today. Dr. Kwokaki, this $66.9 billion project, it's cost us so much money already. It's a total scandal. Because time and again, in paper submitted by the administration to LegCo, there's been misleading information. They're misleading public, they're misleading LegCo members. Next Monday, there will be a meeting of the Subcommittee on Railways, but you know, it's just a 2-hour meeting. How much could they say? How much time do we have for the senior management of MTRC or the senior officials of government to explain things? Definitely, there's not enough time. And from past experience, you know that as a committee, we could only scratch at the surface of cases. Every time we have to invoke the powers and privileges given under the ordinance before government officials would tell the whole story. In any case, on the 14th of May, the notice was given to move a motion. We wouldn't know when that motion would be dealt with, but anyway, there will be a discussion of that debate of that motion. So here we're talking about public money, and then the scope is so extensive and so many are involved. It's unprecedented. It's probably more scandalous than many past work scandals we've seen. Now we're talking about big country, you know, a major country in the world, building a railway line to Hong Kong, and this is scandal. So this is for the pro-establishment camp. It's now time for you to pay back to your country. You have to find who's behind this all. So the motherland could be cleared. It's not about them. It's someone in Hong Kong who's done something and botched the project. So now it's time for you to show your patriotism. Mr. Ray Chen, well, I expect many in the pro-establishment camp to abstain from voting. So this motion is bound to be voted down because they will say that they'll wait till the meeting of the Subcommittee on Railways on Monday. They'll see what can be done at the meeting before they decide whether to support this motion. So it's not about whether there will be new developments next week before you allow this item to be taken up again, but rather if there's no new development, there's all the more reason you shall allow members to reconsider this item, because the subcommittee on railways not able to get anything done, so we have to resort to higher powers of this council to try to get the truth out of the MTRCL. So it's not the case that because there's new development we could reconsider the matter, but rather if there's no new development, then we should look into the matter again. So it depends on whether there's a satisfactory answer given to the subcommittee on railways. If not, I think members should support this motion put forward by Mr. Gary Fang. That is, in the motion, we can say that the Committee of Railways has no way to find out more about the case. That's why there's all the more reason for the Council to invoke the Powers and Privileges Ordinance to look into the matter. Mr. Albert Ho. From information we've got now, there's no reason why we don't inquire into the matter. Considering the nature of the case, the far-reaching implications, and the amount of public money involved, if we do not inquire into the case, we are being irresponsible. Now, the MTRCL has given reasons for the delays, but those reasons cannot be believed. Now, Hong Kong wouldn't go down so much like this, that just because of a major flood, the whole project has to be pushed back so much. It doesn't make sense. If we do not look into the case, we cannot answer to the public. Now, the MTRCL has asked their own directors to look into the case. That's a joke. If those directors had been acting responsibly, they should have been monitoring the project to make sure it's on schedule, and they would have been able to explain things early. Now, actually, those directors might become subjects of investigation, so how can we ask them to do the investigation now? Now, for the airport relocation, there was delay caused, there was a fiasco. That case warranted an inquiry. So many in the pro-establishment camp supported an inquiry into that case. For this case of the same proportion, there's no reason why we don't inquire into it. Now, look at what those members in support of the inquiry said then about the airport fiasco. Now, there's no reason why you would oppose to this inquiry today. Mr. James Tan. About the delays caused in the construction of the express rail link and the cost overrun involved, the Liberal Party is most disappointed. In Hong Kong, we should have better efficiency than that on the mainland. I've taken a ride on the express rail link from Shenzhen to Tianjin. It was many years ago, and in Hong Kong it took so long to build this express rail link. It's shame on us. Now, definitely there must be an inquiry. It's not for the MTRCL to appoint its non-executive directors to investigate themselves. And then the scope of investigation is so narrow. So if it's not for the MTRCL to investigate into the matter itself, who should look into it? Now, even if the Secretary for Transport and Housing is to investigate a case, it's not appropriate, because the problem could lie with the Secretary or the Highways Department or the MTRCL. That's why the Liberal Party would like the Chief Executive to appoint an independent inquiry. A judge should preside over the inquiry, and professionals should be appointed to look into the case. So at the Subcommittee on Railways meeting next Monday, we'll see if there's anything new to be reported. If not, and we are actually saying this to the administration, that is before Friday, before the 9th of May Friday, the administration will announce how they are going to inquire into the case. Otherwise, the Liberal Party may support the invoking of the Powers and Privileges Ordinance, but today we won't support it as yet. Dr. Loy Kwok. Mr. Chairman, I'm a professional engineer. I'm a representative of the engineering sector in LegCo. The MTRCL has announced delay in the project because of a number of reasons. We expressed grave concern about that. Now, whether it's because there wasn't sufficient ground investigation done before the project, or perhaps they did their best, but then they encountered such a complex geological or ground condition, there's no way they could follow their original schedule. Especially here, we're talking about construction going so deep underground. So we need to find out more why there's this case. Now, the black rainstorm warning was cited, and it caused damage to the tunnel boring machine, and that machine is still stuck in the tunnel. Now, how do we deal with it? That's a tough issue. So we want to know desperately what the MTRC is going to do to resolve that. For the overall delay to the project, how serious would that be? How much more additional cost would be involved? And what are the effective ways to minimize the delay and the cost overrun? So that even if there's to be a delay, at least the ERL could be finished as soon as possible with a minimum additional cost. That's an issue of grave concern to the engineering sector, and I'm sure this council and the public are also very much concerned about this. About invoking the powers and privileges ordinance, about making heads roll. Well, at this stage, I don't think we need to do it. In future, we'll look at the developments of the case, and we'll see whether then there is need to take this step. I think we still have time to see how things evolve. We have to see what information the administration and the MTRCL would provide and before make a decision, so that I'm not in support of invoking the powers and privileges ordinance now. Thank you.
Mr. Chang Han Pang, the DAB is very disappointed about the cost overrun and the delay, and we also agree that we should look into the matter and find out the reasons and to find out whether someone should be held responsible. But so far, the information we've got is from newspapers and media. We have to act reasonably. So I think the meeting at next Monday is important. I hope the government and the MTRCL would give us convincing reasons and be accountable to the people and this council. And before the meeting next Monday, we cannot support whether we should invoke the PMP. So we are going to vote against this today. If there's no other members, Mr. Fan, I'll give you a chance to speak later. Who else would like to speak? As the Cantonese saying that if you do not come first, well, you lose out. So it seems that some members would like to do things first. They are talking about things in general terms. They want to investigate the incident, but Mr. Fang is more specific. He wants to look into whether there's a cover-up or whether there's a lack of supervision by the government. So the two proposals are not the same. And it's been said that the pro-establishment camp would abstain, but the reverse cannot be said to be true. If we abstained, that means we can wait until Monday when we have a subcommittee meeting, and the administration and the MTRC would be given the first chance to respond to what has been exposed by the media the very first time in a logical manner. So we should listen to all sides before we make a judgment. Making a judgment now is just the reflection of a mentality of losing out. And it will also be not fair. It will not be fair to make a decision now. It's not fair to the administration and the MTRCL. I think we should talk about this or make a decision later. But as things stand, if there are no major reasons advanced by the administration, I believe that the matter will not go away. But abstaining today is not the same as being pro-establishment. In a House committee meeting, abstention doesn't count as noes, as votes, noes on votes. Mr. Wong Kok Heng, I'll allow two more members to speak before we proceed to a vote. Some days ago, I attended or I just joined the site visit organized by the subcommittee chaired by Mr. Michael Tin. There was no one from the MTRCL to explain things. There was no one from the administration to explain things. According to the MTRCL, it would wait until the meeting on the 5th of May before they would respond to the questions raised by Mr. Michael Tin. So I think even if we are minded to invoke our powers and privileges, we should wait after the 5th of May, and that is we should listen to their responses and reasons that would be more reasonable and appropriate. And the subcommittee on railways is a proper subcommittee. We should allow the subcommittee to have a meeting on the 5th of May 1st. If the MTRCL and the administration cannot clarify the matter and give a full account, the subcommittee can also suggest that a committee be set up invoking our powers and privileges. The subcommittee is empowered to suggest that. And Mr. Michael Tin, among members of the panel on transport, he was the previous chairman of KCRC. So he's a knowledgeable person. So if on the 5th of May we do not get satisfactory answers, I would propose that the subcommittee or the chairman, Mr. Michael Tin, can propose the invoking of our powers and privileges. Mr. Michael Tin, Chairman, powers and privileges are very mighty weapons. The community is very concerned about the delay and the cost overrun. Invoking powers and privileges may have a bearing on that. So this should be the weapon of last resort. We should only consider it as a last resort. We haven't received any paper from the administration or the MTRCL. On Monday, we're going to have a 2-hour meeting on just one agenda item. I suppose they may not be able to respond to all the questions and issues because at that time, at the meeting, members may raise even more questions. So I suppose 1 or 2 more meetings might be needed. I would suggest that the matter be handed over to the subcommittee so that the subcommittee can do all it can to exhaust all questions and answers. And if at the end of the process the community do not accept the explanations, it would only be reasonable that we continue the discussion here. I think members should understand that the powers and privileges cannot really reduce the delay or minimize the delay or the cost overrun. The powers and privileges are there to help us look into the truth. We should here, first of all, listen to the MTRCL on how it proposes to deal with problems about the hard ground, the stone, and the boring machine. I don't think we should invoke the powers now, and at the end of the day, the cost will be overrun by the $20–30 billion. Mr. Tony Chair. But the performance of the MTRCL has been found to be wanting in many cases. For example, when they calculated cloudiness, they tried to shield the problem by certain tricky calculations. I asked a question of the MTRCL. I've been informed that my question will be answered on the 5th of May when we have the subcommittee meeting. And I wrote to the Secretary again, saying that we should be given sufficient time to digest the answers. Maybe we can only get the paper today, and we may need the following 2 days during the weekend to digest the information. So although I have submitted a written question, I will wait until the 5th of May when we have the paper from the relevant parties before I make a decision. Are there better ways than invoking our powers and privileges, as suggested by Mr. Michael Tin? I think this is a question worthy of further exploration. All right, then I'll give Mr. Gary Fang and Mr. Wong Yoman 2 minutes respectively, and then we'll end this discussion. In this term, well, we have asked for the invoking of powers and privileges on some cases, and very often the pro-establishment camp would say that we are trying to wield a big weapon for minor questions. I would say that the delay and the cost overrun is the responsibility of the MTRCL, the administration of this council, because we approved the budget of $60 billion back then. So we are not just trying to find out the cause of the problem, and we should also try to improve the system so as to prevent the recurrence of cost overrun and delay in future projects. I want to respect members. That's why I have asked for deferment of my proposal. But Mr. Chairman, you have not explained how you are going to deal with my proposal. Are you going to ask members to vote on whether the matter should be reopened? Mrs. Carrie Lam has said that invoking PMP may cause more problems. Mr. Michael Tin has also said that invoking powers and privileges may cause a total stoppage. You are trying to shield the government and the MPLCL. It said that the cost of stoppage is $30 million, and the financial benefits of a delay every year is $5 million, according to the previous secretary, Ms. Eva Chang. So we are going to see a loss of $35 million a day. So the member, Mr. Michael Tin, is trying to protect the government, although he says he wants to investigate the matter. Well, Mr. Tin was the KCRC chairman. You are putting up a show. This is a major incident. You are saying that even if we set up a select committee invoking powers and privileges, we are not able to shorten the project time. The delay is still there, and we are not going to reduce the cost overrun. That's wrong. If we conduct our investigation, they will do whatever they can to rectify the problem. The cost overrun will be reduced. The delay will be smaller. So that would be something that can be achieved immediately. Leaving aside this matter, we have to consider the question of pursuing responsibility of MTRCL and the administration. And I don't know whether some members who gave approval to this should also be held responsible. We're talking about $66.9 billion, and the cost is still increasing. The MTRC has not told us how much will be the cost for a 9-month delay. There are so many questions that we have to pursue. If the XRL delay necessitates submission of an application for the supplementary provisions, I'll certainly be embarking on a filibustering. I will give you 5,000 questions, and we will certainly make sure that heads will be rolling. Why not? Well, the old lady asked for retirement protection for the community, and she was rough up. All right, let's deal with this proposal.
This is proposal to seek Council's authorization for the appointment of a select committee inquiry into the delay in the construction of works. Well, I was named. Shouldn't I be given a chance to respond? Oh, this is not a debate. If you have to seek, you want to clarify just because your name is mentioned, then it can't be dealt with here. Now we must deal with the proposal. That is to appoint a select committee to inquire into the delay in the construction works of the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Hong Kong Express Rail Link and related matters, and that in the performance of these duties, the select committee be authorized to exercise the powers under Section 9(1) of the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Those in favour, hands up, please. Mr. Raymond Wong has claimed the division. The division bell will be rung for 5 minutes. So our vote today, is it just on Mr. Raymond Wong's motion or both motions? That's what I just said. Proposal to seek the Council's authorization for the appointment of a select committee to inquire into the delay in the construction works of the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Hong Kong Express Rail Link and related matters. It's the same thing. And if this motion is carried, then I will move the motion on behalf of the House Committee, and then the terms of reference and so on will be decided by the select committee set up. So this is to deal with both proposals in one go. Mr. Gary Feng, I followed strictly the rules of procedure. I wrote to you asking for the item to be withdrawn and for it to be raised again next meeting. If you don't allow the consideration of matter next week, then it's your responsibility. Now, I've written to you. So if you don't approve my latest letter, then you should still deal with it separately. You shouldn't deal with the two letters jointly. If after the subcommittee meeting on the 5th of May, members not happy with the reply of the administration and the MTRCL, then there should still be a chance to consider the matter next Friday. Well, as I said, we must go by the House rules. House Rule 24N said that unless there is approval given by the House Committee, otherwise for matters already decided by the House Committee should not be reconsidered again. So the way I read it is this. Next week, if we want to raise the matter again, then there must be approval by the House Committee that we deal with the matter again. If there is no such approval from the House Committee, then we will not deal with it again next week. So in other words, at the next House Committee, you will put the matter to a vote again? No, two separate issues. If there is nothing substantial, then I will not include the item in the agenda. And even if I put the item on the agenda, there must first be approval by the House Committee. But how does the House Committee approve that? Through a vote? Yes? So it's for you to decide whether the item to be included in the agenda. But whether the House Committee would approve the item, then it's for the House Committee to decide, right? Mr. Wong Kok Kin? Now, if you do not deal with Mr. Gary Feng's proposal, let's say another member proposes it. Let's say if we make a proposal on the same issue, would you accept it? Well, there has to be a substantial difference, or unless a House Committee agrees to do it, because we can't have the same item being raised by different members every week. That's the House rule. Mr. Paul Tse. Now, the beginning and at the end of the debate, you allowed Mr. Gary Feng to speak. So by your action, you actually accept Mr. Gary Feng to withdraw his item. Is that right interpretation? Now, as I said, if today the proposal is voted down, and there's no substantial difference, or there's no House Committee's approval for the matter to be reopened for discussion, then the item will not be included in agenda in the first place. So that's why I should allow him to speak, because he's asked to withdraw the item. But it's only because you accept him withdrawing the item. Otherwise, you shouldn't have allowed him to speak at the beginning and the end of the debate. But the agenda item is here. whether he withdraws it or not, already this item is included in the agenda. But if you accept his withdrawal, then we shouldn't be voting on his proposal, and he shouldn't be allowed to speak as the first and last member of the debate. So that's why I need to be clear about your procedure. Well, what we're doing now is joint vote or joint debate on the proposals, right? Well, there's only just one proposal to seek the Council's authorization for the appointment of a select committee. Both letters are on the same issue, invoking the powers and privileges ordinance. But those are two separate issues because the wordings are so different. That's why we have to get the logic right. I've explained it to you already, Mr. Chair. If members pass this proposal, it's just that I will move this motion on behalf of the House Committee as the chairman of the House Committee. But then first there will be a working committee to look at the terms of reference and so on. But to propose what? That's why the wordings of or the terms of reference of the select committee will have to be first worked out. Okay, please vote, members. Members, quiet, please. Before I declare voting closed, members, please check your vote. If there are no questions, voting is closed. Clerk, please display the voting results. 63 present, 27 for, 34 against, 1 abstention. So the proposal is voted down. Now, our meeting could end at 4:30. There will be a finance committee meeting afterwards. If we could not deal with the next item before 4:30, then we'll have to come back at 6:45. Next, proposal of Dr. Kenneth Chan to seek the Council's authorization for the House Committee to exercise the powers under Section 9(1) of the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance to order the Secretary for Transport and Housing to attend before the House Committee to produce the full report of the investigation conducted by the Transport and Housing Bureau into staff conduct in the Marine Department in relation to the vessel collision incident near Lamma Island on the 1st of October 2012. Dr. Kenneth Chan, 3 minutes, please. Mr. Chairman, the Lamma tragedy happened more than 1.5 years ago. Family members have been waiting for waiting for one report after another. They thought the Transport and Housing Bureau would make public the whole report so they could see the truth. All they're seeking is the truth. The public is seeking the truth, and this council is also seeking the truth. We want the whole truth. But then when Professor Anthony Cheung met with the family members, he only gave a summary with no substance whatsoever. That summary would not help to anybody to get to the truth of the case. One of the family members said, Mrs. Koo said that she's not someone in power. She couldn't force the government to make open the report, but the Legislative Council could invoke the Powers and Privileges Ordinance and ask the Secretary for Transport and Housing to attend before us to give us the full report. In the past, I attended each and every meeting of the relevant panel on this issue because it was with the support of members that there was an adjournment debate at the beginning of this session, at the beginning of this term. I moved the adjournment debate, and members were all very concerned about the Lamma tragedy. We are this far now, and family members want a full report, even about the director of Marine, being asked to resign as the director for so long. So this whole case, and here the investigation is done with public money. It's about an internal investigation about who's in dereliction of duty. Now, these are important principles, but instead the government cite the reason of criminal investigation and that it should override the right to know. I think is totally unacceptable. Recently, there are some odd comments. That is, we should just let members read the full report in behind closed doors. No, that's not acceptable. We are talking about accountability. We're talking about a full transparency. Now, members shouldn't be above any others. Why should it just be us who are allowed to read the report? Don't believe in that. It's a trap for us. It will put us in awkward position, because after we read the report, we're not able to say a word. We're not going to do anything. Why do that? So the government is just adopting a delaying tactic here. So for the 39 lives lost, 8 of those lives were young children below the age of 10. So please support this proposal. Mr. Raymond Wong. 400-page report. Only a tenth of that is a summary. Anyone with some sense at all would not accept it. We are talking about 39 deaths. And if you were the family member of those killed, what would you be thinking? So this government, what sort of government is this? And Professor Zhang, he is in such bad luck. Now, Ms. Regina Yip was so heavily criticized when she was official. Now she's the number 2 most popular LegCo member. So there's no justice to speak of in this world anymore. Because there's no justice, so we must look into the case. There must be investigation. No one needs to bow out to take responsibility. People just get promoted. So here, this is a chance for us to put pressure on the government to show the responsibility. Now, in the summary, there's not a single name of those who should be held accountable. The directorate officers are involved, and there's someone on pre-retirement leave, and there's someone from the Information Service Department made the director of Marine. Would it help? No. And then you want to force family members to sign an undertaking of confidentiality, and then would just give you a glimpse of the report. How could they do something like that? No, it's ridiculous. Now, I've said so. I've commented on this case many times on my platform. This is so outrageous. The report is already out, right? We want to get to the truth of the case. Why are you trying to hide the truth? And then you just cite civil legal proceedings and privacy. And so what privacy? All these officials ought to be sacked. Look at the South Korean tragedy. The president is in trouble. It's not just the prime minister who has to bow out. Mr. Michael Tian. Mr. Chairman, we would all like to get to the truth of the Lamla tragedy. We don't want the same to happen again. The government won't make public the report. You can say the government is being conservative. What if, as the Secretary for Justice said, that it might interfere with the criminal investigation and judicial proceedings? Now, who could shoulder that responsibility? If you do that, you, instead of helping the public, the family members of the victims, you're actually putting them in a disadvantage. Because then those who should be held responsible may be able to get away. I think this is a real point that is not clearly spelled out. Different legal scholars, even Chang Tak-ming, said that, prima facie, there's a case for the government not to make public the report because it might interfere with criminal investigation or judicial proceedings. Now, this is such a complex legal issue. There's not an expert to tell us whether criminal proceedings might be undermined. Now, if we say that at this stage we want to make public the report, maybe we are not being responsible enough. Maybe we are being too spontaneous too. Now, I think the best way is for the government to show the report to family members after they signed an undertaking for confidentiality. At the same time, then we could still proceed with criminal investigation and proceedings, and the family members would get to know the truth. So why can't we do that? I think the government must do it. Otherwise, there's no way they could make this go away. So all members who propose making open to public? What if one day, when there's a criminal proceedings in the court, another court would not entertain the case because this report has been made public? Would you shoulder the responsibility? I want to listen to their response. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a government report. And here we're talking about 39 lives lost in the Lama tragedy. If we just focus on criminal investigation and then the government refuses to reveal the full report, that is really unfair to the family members of the victims. Mr. Michael Tan said repeatedly that if the report is made public, it might get in the way of a criminal investigation. And some officials who ought to be held liable might be able to get away. Now, I am not a legal expert, of course. Now, could there be some sort of treatment of a report so that sensitive personal information needs not be made public at the meeting? And then perhaps there could be an initial account given to the family members of victims. Could that be done as part of the process of being accountable to the public? If you wouldn't even consider doing that, and you can't really convince the public, because this incident happened 18 months ago. As 18 months have elapsed, the government is still playing delaying tactics, and you can't convince people it's not the case if you won't do what I just said. Now, Dr. Kenneth Chan is asking about production of the report. But if we won't even do that, what powers do we have to take any action? We couldn't even have a meeting. We can't even ask for documents. I hope you will support Dr. Kenneth Chan's proposal. Thank you.
Dr. Fernando Cheung, the Lama tragedy happened some 1.5 years ago. For the past 1.5 years, which officials commit what kind of mistakes and what kind of sanctions were imposed, we are kept in the dark. Look at the recent Korean tragedy at sea, and the Prime Minister has to offer his resignation. So you can see the difference in the level of accountability. Now the government has conducted an investigation. There were 17 officials who were found to be in the wrong. So what kind of sanction have been imposed? Such basic information should be disclosed. What's the problem of disclosure? Mr. Michael Tin, you challenge us, that is to say, you ask those who are in favor of disclosing the information should consider how we can shoulder our responsibility if the case is thrown out subsequently by the court. Then I will ask you this: how would the disclosure of information be standing in the way of a court case? If that's the case, then whenever criminal liability is involved, there's no need for the administration to be accountable to tell you anything. That's outrageous. How can you say this is accountability? This is officials shooting other officials. I hope the pro-establishment camp members would speak from your conscience, disclosing the names, the titles of the 17 officials and the sanctions that they have been given. What's the problem of that? Ms. Claudia Mo. Well, the summary is totally silent on who committed mistakes and what mistakes were committed, when were they committed, and how were they committed. They just gave you some charts telling you what happened from the beginning, and they thought they have done a good job in explaining things. And they are also suggesting that publishing the report would affect criminal investigation. Well, it's been going on for 1.5 years. Any investigation that would need to be conducted should have been completed. How can it affect the judicial process? What is before the courts? There's not even an arrest. Who has been arrested? Well, apart from the captains of the two vessels, that's another case. And then you talk about privacy. Public officials do not enjoy this. Well, if you are guilty of dangerous driving, you're shown on footages day in and day out. And Mr. Michael Tin has left the chamber. He talks about being irrational or emotional, and that we are being irresponsible. It's you that is irresponsible. 39 lives have been lost. You just think that it can be dealt with just by protecting the government. And if you just make the report available to the victims' families, well, they can only do this under after they've signed an agreement on secrecy. It's going to be very hard on them. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan. Well, it seems that some people think that you can be accountable or you can be not accountable in a case involving 39 lives. The government is trying to avoid disclosure by hiding behind possible judicial proceedings. So who can be made accountable? It's really ridiculous. Nothing has been done after 18 months. The report has been completed and only a summary is disclosed. What has been done in the 18 months? Any investigation that has to be done should have been done. The government is dragging its feet for 18. It has been doing this for 18 months. It intends to continue to do this. Should this council allow the administration to continue to hide behind judicial proceedings and disclose nothing? Mr. Michael Tin, I think you should have some confidence in this council's members. We have had cases whereby our investigations were conducted in parallel with government investigations. We have experts to advise us that whatever we investigate will not affect criminal investigations. It seems that some members are not confident in fellow members. They only trust the government. If that's the case, you don't have to be an electoral member. You don't have to monitor the government. You don't have to run for elections. There's no need to monitor the government. There's no need for you to run for elections. I think the government has failed the victims' families and the victims. Mr. James Tin, at the panel meeting on economic services, there was a thorough discussion with the one responsible for the investigation. A motion was passed to the effect that the 400-odd page of page report should be made available to councillors under an agreement of secrecy. At 2:26 p.m., we have received a reply to our request. It's said that they would consider this request, although on that day they put up various excuses saying that they may be sued, there may be problems. And now they are saying that this request will be considered, and the report will not just be made available to councillors, but also to family members of the victims. is being considered according to the reply. Maybe they know that we are going to have a discussion in this meeting, and that's why at 2:26 they gave out this reply. Some members may not be aware of this because you are in a meeting. We support the proposal because we want the government to make available the report to councillors of this council. So we would like to adopt a wait-and-see attitude. Let's see the report. And then on the 15th of May, the same will be made available to the victims' families. Of course, the victims' families will not make undue disclosures which may affect future prosecutions. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, I think Mr. Michael Tien is too emotional. Oh, he has left. He should not be putting questions to us. He should put the questions to the government. And that is to say, are you going to be held yourself responsible? If you are caught trying to withhold the report, you will be guilty of cheating this council. You said there might be something criminal that you have to deal with us, but we may find out that it's not true after reading the report. Well, Mr. Tien should ask some other parties to be held responsible. He should not have asked members of this council to be responsible. Well, I'm confident that my view is correct. I don't think a report can affect criminal investigation. If after reading the report the police wants to arrest a person, it can be done. If you say the report might be used as a defense, then it will be produced, it will be admitted all the same. So whatever you say, it's not going to be accepted. The report can only help the criminal investigation because if the information is useful, the police should have access to it. Why shouldn't this council be allowed to read the report? And if after reading it we think it should be disclosed, it should be disclosed. Mr. Chen Ken-nam, at the FA panel meeting, we had a discussion. We did not oppose to making the report available. The question is whether it should be made available to the public, to the victims' families, or to this council's members. If we want to get the best effect out of the criminal investigation and the judicial process, so as to safeguard the best interests of the victims' families, well, the panel did pass the amended version of a motion that I proposed. I think that's the best way forward. Since the motion as amended was passed, I think the House Committee should respect the panel and should not try to reopen the issues again. If, as Dr. Kenneth Chan has said, and if you want to offer or give a trap to members, you are doing a disservice to members. We should not invoke our powers to affect public interests. Our powers should only be exercised with a lot of prudence. And whether the report is going to be made open has nothing to do with privacy. It's there to protect the judicial process, to uphold justice, and to make sure that the victims' families may be able to get the best result out of the possible civilian procedures. I want to respond to Mr. Michael Tin and Mr. Chan Kam Nam. Members may have some misunderstandings about what will or will not affect criminal or civil or judicial processes. Any disclosure of facts will not affect judicial processes. What would affect judicial processes? That is if the public base their conclusions on certain facts, and in certain circumstances the relevant judicial processes might be affected. Our courts, including the Court of Final Appeal, have stated time and again that our judges and our jury in Hong Kong can really tell apart what are facts, what discussion will not affect the decision making on their part. Disclosing an investigation or may not make electoral members failing to uphold justice. I hope members will not mind my saying so. Some of the reports may be withheld for good reasons, and they're not just about trying to hide things. And sometimes the investigation is about fact-finding, and then the conclusions or the judgment might be removed. That's the case involving the Times. When there's a matter of public concern, an open discussion may not affect judicial processes, and this has been the law in Hong Kong all the time. I thank Mr. James Tin for giving us the new piece of information. I think there's a slap on the face of some members saying that it should not be disclosed. It may affect judicial processes, and the government is considering disclosure. Why are you trying to protect the government on something that may not be so important to the government? The victims' families will very much like to know the cause of the incident. They have suffered the loss of family members, and still they don't know the cause of the incident. The government has been dragging its feet for so long. The criminal investigation doesn't seem to go anywhere. So when can the truth be revealed? This is a real issue, and we have duties to discharge in this council. If we don't do that, how can we be accountable? So please don't try to shield the government for no good reason, and don't misuse the pretext that it may affect judicial processes. It has been widely misused as an excuse. Unless the information or the facts uncovered are not really true, how can other things be affected? Unless you are not confident about the investigation, what has been uncovered may not be true. Otherwise, why should you be afraid?
Mr. Alan Leong, if I may remind members, the Director of Public Prosecutions actually deployed this tactic before, about a year ago, when Mr. Justice Michael Lun started the Commission of Inquiry, At that time, the Director of Public Prosecution cited the reason that a criminal investigation may be undermined, and he applied to adjourn the inquiry. And Mr. Justice Michael Lunn said that time clearly that this is not valid reason. The government is doing it again, so I don't know why we're giving it so much weight. If you talk about the interests of victims' families, in civil cases where there's injury or death involved, there's a time limit of 3 years, and half of that time has passed now. If you're still giving the government excuse that the full report would not be disclosed, that it's just a summary that will be made available, that's not in the interest of the victims' families. That point we must bear in mind carefully. Now, Mr. James Tan is, being a nice guy. The government is saying that they will let you see the report. So I think we should pass this proposal to exert pressure on the government, because we will still have to go to the council meeting, and there will be an authorization process. And the government would only act when things, when enough pressure is brought to bear on them. So maybe then they would consider other arrangement as well. Maybe they could just black out those portions to do with criminal liabilities. It can be done that way. So I would appeal to members to pass this proposal. Mr. James Tan. Now, 10 months ago, Professor Anthony Cheung told the victims' families that to wait for this report, because the report will have to be made public after the investigation is completed. Now, about 2/3 or 3/4 of family members that I am in touch with still believe at this point the full report should be made public, not just made available to the victims' families, because they see immense public interest involved here. The principle adopted by Mr. Michael Justice Lunn in making public this report is that for cases where the criminal aspects have been dealt with, then they could be made public. Otherwise, those parts will be redacted. But then for the Secretary for Justice, it seems that he's moved the goalpost now. In fact, there have been many examples in the past where reports were made public despite an ongoing criminal investigation. For example, in year 2000, the short piling incident, at the time there was a commission of inquiry into the short piling case at the Sha Tin site. The nature is similar. The inquiry was to ascertain whether there were public officers in the wrong, and the whole report was made public. This time round, family members are asking for the report to be made public. Now, even in the report, that is what's gone wrong with the Marine Department. It's just a description of facts. Even that part of the full report would not be made that part of the report won't be made public, and has nothing to do with prosecution. How come what's in the mind of the administration? Why is it being so conservative? We find it odd. So that's why we hope members will support Dr. Kenneth Chan's proposal. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Yes, I hope members will support the proposal. At the meeting of the panel on economic development last week, I asked the same question. You've made public reports before. You do so in future. Only recently we've done so. On the 12th of May, the Public Accounts Committee is to look into the Mega Events Fund case. Of course, in the audit report, the case is just referred to as Event ABC, but we all know what Events ABCD are, and maybe the IC is already doing an investigation, but does it mean that we couldn't carry out inquiries, we couldn't write our report? No, that's not the case. And then some time ago, there was the Timothy Tong case. The chief executive appointed commission of inquiry, but at the same time, a criminal investigation was being undertaken. So what was done was just that the most sensitive names were redacted, And it's not like this case, the 400-page report is just summarized into 50 pages. It's totally unacceptable. Now, even if you allow family members to read the report in confidentiality, what purpose does it serve? Would it just make them feel worse after reading the report? Now, if it's not going to serve any purpose, don't do it. Instead, just make public the whole report. The Director of Public Prosecution, in answering members' questions that day, said that he is adopting a prudent approach. It's just a conservative position. So why can't you just redact the names and then make public the full report? Is this report part of the evidence? It's for the judge to decide, and he will give guidance to the jury in any case. So that's why I'm in support of Dr. Kenneth Chan's proposal. Two other members wish to speak. Does any other member wish to speak? Otherwise, I'll draw a line. Mr. Porte. Okay, so I'll draw a line there. 4 more members will speak. No, 5. I'll draw the line there. And then I will let Dr. Kenneth Chan speak, and then we'll deal with the motion. Next to Ms. Sitho. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, whether the report is reviewed or not, it won't change the facts. If someone has committed any wrong, the public will find out about it. But then it's not like we will fabricate facts. If someone hasn't done anything, or if someone hasn't done anything wrong, it's not because that eventually if the case goes to court, the person will be held criminally liable. So making public the report will not affect those parties who might face court proceedings. But I agree with the Deputy Chairman for conclusions. Perhaps they should not be made public. Now, there have been many cases in the past that judges have said that they have independent minds. They won't have regard to media reports or discussions in LegCo. Their judgment simply would not be affected. But then the government always uses that as an excuse. For example, about the case of someone being aged 18 and being allowed access to education, it said that there's a criminal case, there's a court proceeding, so they wouldn't make public the information. Now that's the case with civil matter, but here in a criminal matter, they're trying to use the same excuse. Now there are recent examples. The collapse of the building in Ma Tau Wai Road. That investigation was a criminal one because many lives were lost and people were injured. But the report was still just made public. There was no problem. How come here, now, when it has to do with civil servants, the government would not make public the reports? Is it because they're trying to protect their own kind? Is it because the government thinks that there will be internal disciplinary action, so then they are able to evade all responsibilities? So I want to know why that's the case now. Ms. Emily Lau. I support Dr. Kenneth Chan's proposal. I'm sure many victims' family members are following this meeting. They want to see what members are like. Of course, every night on TV, we're still watching the unfolding of the Korean marine disaster case, and we're really sad by that. Now, this case is dragged on for 18 months. Family members are not just asking to read the report, but rather victims' families would like the Hong Kong administration and the judiciary to do justice to them. So reading the report is an overdue start of a process. It's not that family members think if they read the report, then they could have a closure. But we won't even allow them to start the next step. So what sort of signal are we giving to the victims' families and others? this case, has dragged on for 18 months. There will be 2 years soon. It will be like the Manila hostage case. It might take 3-4 years, but must it take that long? In Hong Kong, we should be helping these people. They must be really emotional. They are still in grief, and we must give them some hope. Today, if we pass this proposal, we're just making a baby step forward. But if we wouldn't even take that step, what sort of message are we giving them? What sort of message are we giving to the community? Let's forget about the SAR government in South Korea. Someone is taking responsibility and stepping down. But here we're trying to protect people. So colleagues, respond to the victims' families. Support this proposal.
Hey, Dr. Lo Wai Kuo, Chairman, on the next morning after the disaster struck, I went to Hong Kong Electrics to express my sorrow and ask what the engineering sector could help. There were young engineers, junior members of my same faculty. But of course, the families felt the highest grief. I can certainly understand their response and their pain. There is an ongoing criminal investigation, and the administration will also consider punishing those responsible. And if we are to invoke our powers and privileges to have the full report produced as stated in the proposal, do we still give time for the DOJ or the Secretary to make the available partially available to members and to the victims' families? I just can understand why we have to make a decision today. If the government is just trying to delay things and there's no need, there's no intention to impose sanctions, we will not be just invoking PMP to see the report, but also to look at the working of the government internally. Some people guess that this report has some implication about the sanction to be imposed. Some say no. I don't think that should be the attitude adopted by this council. I cannot support the invoking of PMP now. Mr. Paul Chair, we're talking about the monitoring of the work of government departments, and there's no reason why we should not make the report available. And second, we're also concerned about the judicial processes. It's not just about the facts, but whether some people's memory may be clouded. Well, the principles may be as spelled out in the Lee Min-Tee case, but the principles must be applied to the facts of the case. So I cannot agree to the principle advanced by some members. Even in the report by Mr. Justice Lun, some evidence discovered might have affect the criminal investigation. I agree that some of the information should be broken out. That's what we have done in the Timothy Tom's case. And if the safeguard, as I've suggested, can be put in place, we should disclose all the contents that will not affect criminal investigation. Well, there are so many vessels out there, not just Lama 4, but some other vessels which might not be safe because of the wrongdoing of the Marine Department. We hope the report should be made open now. But I hope the government will do something now so as not to force us to get a full report. Some members have forgotten that more than a year ago, when we faced the tragedy, Mr. Siwa Leung looked very sad, standing beside a liaison office official. Some government senior officials should have bowed out to take responsibility, and they now just stay on shamefully. If we have division of powers, if they are dutiful, they should have done all these already. And as some members have pointed out, in many cases, criminal investigation is also involved. There are cases more severe or serious in nature, such as the alleged corruption of Mr. Timothy Tong. And Mr. Paul Che has said, very often such cases will be heard by the judge alone without the involvement of a jury. And I don't think judges will be swayed by public opinion. Our judges are not as poor as suggested. Many cases are heard in a transparent manner. There must be sufficient disclosure so that we have confidence, the public have confidence about the judicial process. I think that the government or the DOJ's judgment is problematic. If they are so poor in judgment, and we must follow their judgment, saying that whatever we want to see done may affect the following judicial processes, will be failing our community. Mr. Kenneth Chan. Well, if this proposal is not passed because of opposition from the pro-establishment camp, well, I would say the victims' families will be disappointed, but I won't give it up. I'll continue to pursue the matter. Some members have not been acting according to what you have said, and one of them has even reported that he has received an SMS. Not everyone has received the SMS. Only you have done so. Some members would like to get some material deleted before it's made available. In paragraph 14, it says that whether some information should be broken out and make public, this is not feasible, because that would mean the breaking up the bulk or the majority part of the report. And if this can be made available now, then the government is shifting its positions again. Is that fair to the victims' families? Is that accountability? Well, we have a government that is not working properly. And if you say you are sympathetic and you vote against the proposal, then you are failing your duty. Well, we haven't received the SMS. We have been giving the information by our colleagues. I think we should pass the proposal and then see what other ways we can resort to exert pressure. Well, I'm not receiving the SMS. I'm not the only one receiving the SMS. It was sent to me at 2:26. All right, we're now dealing with a proposal of Dr. Kenneth Chan to seek the Council's authorization to exercise the powers under the Powers and Privileges Ordinance. We have a division, so the division bell will be rung for 5 minutes. Mr. Paul Che? The speaker's not coming soon. Chairman, I would like to remind members that this is about Section 9(2). Dr. Kenneth Chan is seeking the Council's authorizations for the House Committee to exercise the powers under Section 9, Bracket 1 of the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance to order the Secretary for Transport and Housing to attend before the House Committee to produce the full report of the investigation conducted by the Bureau into staff conduct in the Marine Department in relation to the vessel collision incident near Lama Island on the 1st of October 2012. Voting begins. Before I close the voting, please check your votes. If there's no questions, voting is closed. I'll ask the clerk to display the results. 59 present, 27 for, 30 against, 1 abstain. So the proposal is not passed. There's no AOB. Meeting's adjourned.